Welcome to the Consultants Way podcast, your go-to resource for all things professional services consulting. Brought to you by McMann and Ransford, a strategy consulting firm with over 30 years of experience helping B2B organizations achieve sustainable growth, and the Consultants Way, the leading comprehensive consultant development program. Hosted by Dean McMann and Anthony Paluska, we share expert insights, firsthand experiences, and conversations with industry leaders on the topics that interest you most.
The views and opinions expressed by guests on this podcast are their own and do not necessarily reflect the views or positions of their employer, company, or affiliated organizations.
Welcome back to the Consultants Way podcast. Anthony Paluska and Dean McMann here. Dean, how are you doing today?
Hi, I'm having a super day today. I got up early as I always do, and I always have a long list to do before the world starts. And actually, today I got it done. So
that's good to hear. It is before lunchtime. So if you got your whole list done before lunchtime, you need a longer list.
Oh, I had a long list, but I started at 5.
Good for you. Enjoy the afternoon, then take the rest of the day off. You've earned it.
There is another list. There is another list I'll be working on. But thank you. I appreciate that. It's not often anybody offers that.
Yeah. No, we'll pay you for the whole day. Just enjoy it.
Yeah, the same pay I get. I appreciate that.
Exactly. The same thing I paid you for yesterday's work.
Yes. Well, I appreciate that. That's very kind. I don't care what your mom says about you. That's very kind.
All right. Yeah. So on today's episode, we are joined by Danielle Daoud. So Danielle is a very people-centric, people-focused professional services leader, has lots of experiences she'll introduce on the podcast at leading different kinds of SaaS organizations of all different sizes. But the core theme here, and we were even talking a little bit before this on is really about, hey, if we don't solve this problem of engaging our team and realizing that we're in the people business, we're going to end up losing people from the professional services profession at large. Because it's not just that some organizations do it really well and others do it really poorly. Across the board, Danielle's perspective on this is that, and I think we share this, is that we can all step our games up a little bit in terms of how we relate to and how we engage with our people. And that's the leader's responsibility. That's the leader's responsibility to make sure that their company understands the value of professional services. We very much are in a people business, and we get out of them what we pour into them, as you always say on this. And Danielle hits some key tactics and highlights on okay, well, how do we actually make sure that we're fostering that buy-in, engagement, support? So I think really important topic for us to discuss today.
Yeah, I'm very excited about her because I don't think there's anyone who does a better job of tying outcomes to the way we treat our people. She's obviously very passionate about it, has, as you said in other conversations, she has good advice, good thoughts. Very excited about that. She is very passionate and has a wealth of experience doing it in many different big companies, small companies, So yeah, it'll be a lot of fun today. And she's also very engaging. So I think people will really enjoy today.
Yeah. So without any kind of further preamble here, let's kick it over to the conversation with us and Danielle. Well, today we are lucky to be joined by Danielle. So Dean and I welcome you to the show. Danielle, happy to have you here.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Of course. Danielle, we'll provide a little bit of an introduction on you before this, but please dive into a little bit of details on yourself and your background in professional services for the audience.
Well, I'm Danielle Daoud. I am based in Montreal, Quebec. I've been in professional services for over 20 years, with the last decade or so focused on SaaS. I've had the chance to work for companies of all sizes, small, mid-size, and really global giants across numerous industries and verticals. And I'd like to say that I'm a people leader. My passion comes not just from the work itself, because I really like what I do, but from who I get to do it with. So
Yeah. And we've had some conversations before this, and yes, you very much, your core belief and philosophy does seem to center around kind of the people side of the business. So I'm really glad that you said that as part of your introduction there. The conversation that we were having leading up to this, and I think the focus of today's um, chat is going to be really about kind of this view of, or this thing that happens sometimes where we treat our people in a very transactional manner. And okay, let's bring back the human element of professional services and leading a professional services team. So Danielle, talk just a little bit about that, and I really want to dive into that topic at least for a little bit here to start us off. But share kind of your just overarching beliefs and philosophy around the people side of the professional services business.
And Danielle, and before you jump into our big topic, do you believe Montreal or Quebec City is the best city in North America?
Oh, that's a tough question.
Because I hear this all the time, and I've been to both, and they're both wonderful. I'm kind of a little, and I hate to say this out loud, but I find Montreal a little more interesting. Although Quebec City, the center of town, is really cool. It's like going to a French town.
Yeah,
But Quebec
I
City has
I
just, I mean, Montreal has a little more to offer, I think.
hesitate just because I have a lot of friends in Quebec, but my heart is with Montreal. I think the variety in cultures and people gives it a charm, a different edge that I didn't find particularly in Quebec City. So I love food. I love the dynamics of Montreal. And so you'll find pretty much anything that you're looking for in Montreal. The city just comes alive. And yeah, I would say if you were to visit Montreal, do so in between July and August. It's very, very
A
different.
very short window.
Yeah. And everybody else there is in
That's when
July and
everything's
August
happening.
too. Yeah. So and I'll leave their name out, but my daughter and son-in-law both work for a company out of Montreal, although they live here in the U.S. So yeah,
Okay,
and
do
they
you
love
speak
it.
French?
No, and as you know, I had a house in France for 15 years in the Bordeaux area, and we got decent, as I would call hotel French, But
Okay.
as soon as we sold it like a typical American, it's all kind of faded. But I can still listen and go, oh, you want to know my room number, or you want to know if I want butter, not if I want a beer, right? And that's about it. Although I did order, and Anthony, you might have been with me. I did order butter one time and got a beer, so I'm not that good at it. But I drank the beer, and
Really kind of situation that might be okay.
I changed from ordering beer with the word beer to presson, right? So, which means in France, give me a draft beer. So,
Well, Dean,
anyway,
I'm disappointed. I thought we were going to have this entire conversation in French.
we
And
could,
I'm
but
just sitting here
the limited number
and
of people that would watch it in the North American world would be, petite,
Oh,
petite.
petit.
Yeah. All right.
All right.
Tell us about your view of why we're in a people business, for gosh sakes, and no matter what we enable our people with, it's a people business. So tell us a little bit about your views and theory about that.
Yeah, I'm glad you touched on the people business because that's the beauty. This is my personal opinion. The beauty of professional services comes from the people. You not only get to interact with clients directly, but internally, you pretty much deal with everyone. And at all levels of the organization, and there's never a day that's the same. And who makes that difference? It's us. It's the people. But we we tend to prioritize, right? We're all under an enormous amount of pressure. It's always at an increasing pace, and we do have targets to meet and KPIs to meet and beat. That we tend to forget about our valued team members, right? So it's we hustle all the time, and it's fine. But if you find yourself hustling at everything that you do all the time, it's, in my opinion, it's just a race to the bottom. So KPI, don't get me wrong, KPIs and numbers are important. But as a leader, you have to step back and think, is that the right measurement for me at this point in time? For example, is time to value relevant when you're going through a team transformation? Is hiring fast more important than hiring right? How often, I read the other day, every resignation letter is a performance review for leadership. And I don't know that we take the time to dig into that exit interview or to understand, how did we get here? What went wrong? No, what we do is very transactional based. We go back to posting and hiring and repeating the same things over and over again. And who suffers the most? I think it's our people. And so that's why I think that I always say, we have to move away from being transactionally based when it comes to the people who get a job done day in, day out.
Yeah. Do you find that one of the challenges with that in an embedded PS group in a product company, that it's difficult to get those not involved, the executive leadership and other people, to understand that, to view PS not just on how powerful it is, that's always a challenge, but to view PS from, this is a talent business, it's not like other groups, and it's a client facing talent business. But do you find that a challenge?
It is a challenge. We always have, I found myself having to sell professional services, having to sell our people. And speaking, I was just talking about KPIs. We are revenue generators, right? Our people, they're at the front line, and they're salespeople. They don't realize that they're technical sales. Every time they get on a call with a client, they're selling themselves, their expertise, their experience, they're selling the product, they're selling the company. And so you can sell all you want, but if you have no one to implement it, you're no further ahead. And I don't know that I think we're doing a lot of work towards exposing how the importance of professional services. We're certainly not there yet, in my opinion. But yeah, it is difficult to understand our value. We are the engine to success. You turn us off, nothing can work.
Yeah, Danielle, what have you done internally, either at your current organization or prior organizations, to help communicate that value, that the professional services team is the engine and the people are the engine that drive the professional services team, so that the rest of the organization can understand some of that? Are there some kind of tactical or practical things that you've used in the past that you've seen be successful?
I think it's all about communication. Yes. I've had to do a roadshow internally with my presentation so that people understand sales, marketing, the development team, the product team. They understand our value, what we bring to the table. You can develop a really good product, you can sell it, you can market it, but when it comes time to delivering it, if you do not have the right people and you don't take care of your people to grow and invest in their development, that client is going to notice it. And so we are there to deliver. We're there to close the loop. And how often do we think of, if I was to ask you guys, where do you go that service matters? That you remember, whether it being Costco or Disney, that they have that attention to detail, that service matters all the way to the end, that detail. And if you don't invest in your people, it will show in the implementation, it will show in the results and in the service itself. And so it does matter. It does matter also for clients to stick around. It's always the service after the sale. We are heavily involved in clients not churning or clients churning, and we underestimate that, in my belief.
Oh, I think that's one of the biggest transformations that's going to happen in the technological businesses as they mature, to become much more understanding the real power of PS. It's not just another department. I have a friend that runs a PS group in a Fortune 100, And he says every meeting with his leadership starts with, "What do you guys do?" Every time. And he goes, "I just have a presentation."
Ah.
Yeah. And he goes, "And I can be talking to the same executives time and time again. What do you guys do?" All right. So, how do we treat our people better? As a leader, what do we do?
That's a very good question, one I like. I think as leaders, the first thing we have to do is recognize that our people are our greatest asset. I like to use the analogy. For example, we all take care of the things that we value, that are important to us, whether being our families, our pets, our cars, or homes. If you don't take care of something, it rusts, it doesn't perform, it gets sick. And it's the same thing. We have to start by taking care of our people. And first and foremost, you have to be able to recognize that they are your greatest asset. They are the ones who are going to get you through the finish line. And then you have to notice people. They're not invisible. Notice them. Know their story. Know their challenges. Why are they there? What makes them tick? As a leader, it's important to be transparent, lead with vulnerability, put yourself out there, and to make those connections. And if you don't take the time to notice your people, it'll be hard for you to make that call and make a connection and build upon that trust. And development, people development. I'm a catalyst for people development. I love to take people to the next level and provoke that change when it's a win-win. If you invest in them, you have to remember they own their development, but you own building a high-performing team. You own building talent. You're responsible for that. So it's a win-win. And if you're able to invest in their development and growth, they're going to give you twofold what you've put in. So investing in your people, essentially, when they notice that they invest in your mission.
Yeah.
Yeah, as the largest trainer and developer and enabler of the PS organizations, we love when people understand if you pour into them, you'll get, we have high expectations. If we don't pour into them and explain how to do things, and they're a little bit lost at sea.
Mm. Yeah. And I think it's important, Dean, also to not, whatever you're doing as a leader, not to let it be a one-hit wonder. Be consistent about it. So because they're going to think, okay, what's in it? There's something in it for them, right? So that's what I meant about being transparent and be true to yourself, because they're going to be expecting that question to come up. Okay, what is it that you need from me? But when you start to notice and have these candid and open conversations about, how did your day go? How did your tournament go? How did soccer go? You start to build a relationship and you start to build trust. And these people are going to feel like they're not working for you, but they're working with you towards a common goal. And that makes a big difference.
Yeah, I think we all want to be part of something bigger than ourselves. And I think back to when I left a firm where I was an executive, one of the big consulting firms, and I look back, why did I leave? I got a boss that didn't do any of those things, even though I'd been there a long time and had made it and was in the leadership group and been paid really well. But I ended up, and the person was a good person. I mean, we became good friends later on, and he was a client. But at that time in my career, it was important to be seen, to be understood. And instead, they lost somebody they had invested a lot of time in.
Yeah, do you see that? I mean, right, we can develop we can develop our people, and that builds some of that trust, that builds some of that relationship. But you mentioned a couple of times, right, this transparency, this vulnerability, this really making a connection with our team really helps to do all the things that we're trying to accomplish with our team. In a world of increasingly more remote work, that the how we actually go about making those connections has changed, right? We're not in the office. We don't have those separate situations where we can just be with people. I find that in a lot of cases, like many others find, right? We hop on a call. We're very transactional about what's the topic of this discussion. Let's get in, get out, and then we're going to move on to the next call because our calendars are blocked up with 30-minute Teams meetings back to back to back. So what are your thoughts on how we continue to build those connections, or at least change our attitude about how to build connections in this age of remote work?
I've been working remotely for way before COVID. And I can tell you it wasn't easy at first. It was a complete shift for me. I think it's a little bit harder when you're remote until it's not. True that when you're in the office, you do have these casual interactions, and as opposed to now, just names on a screen. And those casual interactions, you 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 go back to the basics, right? People are human. You talk, I just by the coffee station or at the cafeteria, people have lives, have hobbies, have daily struggles, as opposed to even when you're just in the office in a meeting room, you can read someone's body language, something that is they can't turn off their camera, right? So being remote, you have to provoke a change. You have to let people know what your expectation is. Like, for example, just turning on cameras. Once you notice your people, like I was saying before, you start to know, you read their body language, their tone, their facial expressions through the camera. So I said it earlier, it is difficult until it isn't. Just like all of us, we get it up in the morning, we have our coffee, and we go to social media. For example, we go to TikTok or Instagram or whatever social media is of choice.
Dean's really big into TikTok these days.
I want you to know I have noticed that my clock goes TikTok. Yes,
That is
that's my TikTok investment.
Am I going to have Dean on a TikTok video? Is there a TikTok video of you out there, Dean?
No,
That
there's
I should
lots
be
of
looking
video of me, but not on TikTok. No.
Okay. But that's what I'm saying. It's second nature. You go there by default without even thinking about it. It's the same thing we have to do with our people. You have to intentionally make an effort to create moments to connect with them until it's no longer an effort, right? Just like going to your social media. And it could be different things for different people. Whatever makes you comfortable as a leader, whatever has yielded you results in the past. And it could be different things for, like I said, for different people. But it does require more work up front until you really get the hang of it, and it becomes just natural to you to do that. And if you log in the morning and you see someone's green, for example, reach out to them without a specific goal in mind, or having them or asking them about a milestone or an update on something. Just say, hey, you want to have breakfast, or let's have lunch together today remotely. What are you having? But it takes a lot at first. It's in conscious effort. But then it becomes easier, right? The first, the second, and the third time, or every time you do it, it just becomes easier and easier over time.
I like that you said make a habit of it, right? Let's make a habit of it. The other thing I like is when you have to give feedback for growth or even ask someone to leave, if you've really been intentional with them, it's much easier to really help them.
Absolutely,
Even if
100%.
they have to leave.
Because yes, and that's why I go back to what I said earlier about connecting with people and know them. It is difficult the first time. So for me to have had, I've called someone unexpectedly one time because they told me they were undergoing a medical treatment, and I called them maybe days later and I asked them about it, and then I called and I put a reminder for myself to call them again, maybe a couple days later and a couple of days later, and then you build a bond, you build trust, and then you get to know each other in different perspectives and settings, which makes it a lot easier to carry a difficult conversation at one point. But if you don't build upon that, you don't build that foundation, yes, it does become more difficult.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's important both as a leader, but then also when you're a leader, trying to impart that practice onto your teams so that they're building relationships with one another and building the entire community of the organization, which I think kind of reinforces all of this. I liked your comment on, right, like make a habit of just reaching out to somebody without an intended work related purpose. Have you tried anything else? Have you seen others do certain things that have also been effective? And some examples of what other organizations have done at certain times is, right, we have the your camera's always on policy, right? Just as a way to make sure that we're driving some face-to-face and some personal interactions. We have some other organizations that once a month for an hour, they get their team or a subset of their team together, and there's not a work agenda. The purpose is not to talk about any of that, but it's to build some of those relationships. Have you seen some of those kinds of things work effectively? Do you have one or two of your personal favorites?
I think my personal favorite is when you set a theme for a meeting, and it can just be pajamas. It could, it could be Halloween. It could be anything, and there's no agenda in mind. No agenda. You can do. I think Teams has a few games that you can pull up every now and then, but and don't make them long because then it becomes forced. I like to do it 15 minutes short with a theme, and you give people the guidelines, and they show up, and it's fun because it's short, it's focused, and it's not work related. It's really about understanding, not understanding, just having fun, and learning more about each other personally, things that you would talk about at a cafeteria or just walking around the building. You don't have that opportunity. So you try to reproduce that virtually. But yes, you wouldn't be going to the office wearing a pajama. That's why we can afford to do it remotely. So it does have benefits to conducting business remotely as well. There's things that you would do there that you wouldn't necessarily do if you were in person. And I wouldn't have my cat walking around. I usually have a pet or two walking by, and then I wouldn't be able to do that in the office. So that just creates a little bit of humor and connection with people.
We're always stressing, both in our firms, but also with our clients who are firms, is go without a work agenda and do events. Don't, because it changes everything. Have fun, but I also appreciate that because I'm wearing my jammies today, that, I'm a very formal person. So these are my jammies. So I appreciate you bringing that up.
So yeah, Danielle, on the topic that kind of we're on engaging people and some tactics that work best, have you seen generational differences for members of your team on what they need, either the level of engagement or the kinds of things that really get them kind of to feel a part of the team, to make sure that they know that you're bought into them as a leader, from right our new graduates all the way up to our more senior and tenured professionals, right? Do they have different needs in terms of how you need to work with them and engage them?
That's a good question. I haven't really noticed a big difference, I would say, but one that did stick out to me is the ones that are more senior tend to need a little bit more check-ins with. I don't know where that comes from, but I have noticed that the younger generation like to be left alone. They know what they're doing.
Or not.
They've seen it all. And so sometimes you want to lead them be, because I'm a firm believer that you learn from your mistakes, and you're allowed to make mistakes, and that I find with the older generation doesn't go as well. Perhaps it's because they're more senior. They have a lot of pride in what they do, but they tend to want to check in with you a little bit more often just to make sure they're on the right path. I know what I'm doing, or not, as Dean said. And so I think that's the only thing that struck me a little. So you have to have a little bit of a balance to know how to adapt your leadership style to that person. But you don't know it until you're in it, right? So otherwise, I haven't noticed anything else of significance.
Yeah, well, I mean, the point that you made is fascinating to me because, right, I think and it makes sense what you're saying, right, as I kind of reflect on that. But our tendency, I think, often as leaders is our newer and less experienced team members need a bit more handholding and support because they just need the help and they aren't maybe as comfortable in the role and in the position. And so. But it's interesting what you're saying is like that actually might be working against their nature of how they want to work. And we might be more inclined to leave our more senior team members alone because we feel like they know when to reach out when they have a question. They understand how this world works a little bit more, right? The business world that they're operating in. And so they can come to us and they know how to reach out. But that's why it's important, right? Both to understand, okay, what they actually need versus what we think they need, and then also tailor it to the individual. Because even if they're from somebody's the same age, from the same generation, all the same things, they still might need some different ways of working and behaving. But yeah, your observation there is very, very interesting. So Danielle, the whole conversation kind of centered around people has been great, and I think there's some really good takeaways from anybody listening. But if you don't mind, right, try and give the audience one or two things to think about or to be left with here that you want to make sure get heard as part of this conversation as a way to wrap us up a bit.
Do not treat people like transactions, or it could have a tendency to backfire. Invest in your people. Because if they're well, they're going to outperform. They're going to be engaged, and that has a direct impact on customer churn. So invest in them. Again, they invest in your mission, in your results, and your objectives. And don't underestimate the influence or the impact that you have as a leader or as a consultant. We all remember that high school teacher. I have several that left their footprint on me for one reason or another, whether it's good or bad. But don't underestimate who you interact with and how you do it, because people pick up on that, and it carries for a very, very long time. So I would say, for me anyway, again, I'm a people leader. I own it. And if I take care of them, they take care of me. You scratch my back, I scratch yours. And that's how together you get to obtain amazing results.
Danielle, thank you so much for taking the time today to be with us. It's been very fun and exciting, and we will have you back. And thank you so much also for just making the clear point that we are a people business, and I like what you said. You kind of get what you pour into them. You scratch my back. All relationships are that way, and the more we pour into them, to your point, we get double out.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. This was fun.
Absolutely. Thanks, Danielle. Well, if you enjoyed that episode and want to hear more like it, like, subscribe, and follow us on YouTube or your favorite podcast channel. Make sure throw a 5-star rating our way, and we'll get more and more of these pushed out there. Also, if you want to connect with Dean or myself, you can always reach out to us on our respective LinkedIn pages, or you can always email the show at podcast@consultantsway.com with topic suggestions, questions for us, guest ideas, any of those kinds of things. You can always reach us at the podcast email address, and we'll be sure to address those. So thanks, everybody, and we'll see you next time.